got a series of questions, maybe building back a little bit just quickly on the thing with Mr. Barton was talking about. Was there is a chart that talks about how production is down but prices are up. Back in 1985, we were drilling, producing about 9 million barrels a day, and we were paying $1.34. Now we're at 5.3 million, and the price is up to 379. So I think he's onto something there. But more importantly, is I'm trying to understand. All of you began your remarks a lot of talk about speculation, speculation, and I'm trying to understand the role of speculators. Is this a recent phenomena that speculators have, just in the last 3 years, 4 years, speculators? Mr. McNally, can you just touch on that? Just briefly, is this a recent phenomenon? Have speculators been able to buy into the oil market for longer than 3 years?
Yes, sir. Starting in the early 1980s, we shifted from what we called a posted price for oil to pricing it in the futures markets when the New York Mercantile Exchange. And that futures market is composed of physical participants, producers of oil, users of oil like airlines, and then financial market participants.
Thank you, because I'm curious about this, right? Because I went back and looked at what happened to crude during the 4 events that I looked at with the Iran-Iraq war back the 81 to 87. When you look at that and the net effect of that from time to begin to the end, actually the price of crude dropped. During the seizure, then when we had that crisis that was there, and it was on the front page of every American paper about our 53 American seized in Tehran, crude didn't increase. During the Gulf War, the Kuwait, it went up about $10 a barrel. And during the Yom Kippur War, it went up about $22. Now, so going back to what was remarked, was if you look those numbers, you're only talking about 25 cents. I shouldn't say only, but that's an increase. How do we get from, where was it, $1.85 at the beginning of this administration to now at $3.79 if crises of global magnitude only are having 25 cents?
Mr. McKinley, may I interject here?
If you could.
Regulation in the trucking industry by the EPA has driven up our cost on a gallon of diesel fuel. 8 years ago when I started driving a truck, we didn't have the ultra-low sulfur diesel that we do today. You know, we're at less than 15 parts per million on the ultra-low sulfur diesel versus the old regular diesel. Back then, diesel was 30 cents a gallon less than a gallon of gasoline. Today, on the street, diesel is over 30 cents a gallon higher than a gallon of gasoline.
I could recover that. I concur with what you're saying. I'm just saying I think that speculation has been used as an excuse, perhaps. Are they a player? Of course they are. But are they that dramatic when you look at the sheer numbers of it? I'm not so sure. I think there are the regulations and others that would go. But let me pose a question that's more hypothetical. If we produce no oil in America and we refine nothing, what would we be paying in America for our oil and gas? $10, what they're paying in Europe?
Mr. That's a hypothetical. It's difficult to answer. We would be producing nothing in America because mostly everything we produce begins with fuel, begins with energy, begins with petroleum products.
So why is this administration making it so difficult? If we understand that if we don't produce anything, if we didn't drill at all, we're probably going to pay $9 to $10. But if we drill, then we have problems. Look during the Keystone Pipeline with the discussion. How many people, and you heard the amendment that was offered, we don't want any of it to go overseas. It's only to be consumed in America. Well, it is. Are we not in a global market or not?
That's the fallacy of the argument, Congressman McKinley, is that we are in a global market, but there are certain folks who say, well, we can do something different within our own market. Everyone admits we're in a global market, but we're going to have some different kind of economic system in our market. Simply doesn't work that way. And as Congressman Green pointed out, you know, exports for us are a major part of it. Keeping American jobs, American workers here are a major part of it.
Well, let's just close on the. I have 17 seconds left on it. If we did go back to that premise, the hypothetical, if we drilled none, and that's what I think this administration would like us to wean us off our fossil fuels. If we did not drill in America, what would be the cost of gasoline in America?
The cost, I can't.
Project. My
I
God,
could
you
just project that China, India, Russia, Brazil would be ecstatic.
Would be what?
Ecstatic,
Well, sure. Because why? We would be paying $10 a gallon?
if not more.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McKinley. At this time, I recognize the gentlelady from Florida, Ms. Castor, for 5 minutes.